So the theater is it's a very special place to many, many people. Uh, Folks that generations of folks have continued to come here, and I'd like to say that it's one of the best kept secrets in Lexington.
There, let me see.
Okay.
Can you give a little history on the Kentucky Theater?
Sure, and Fred will give you more history. It's a long history. We're 101 years old now, so we've been around for a really long time, and the Kentucky has overcome a lot of challenges over the years. In the really early 30s, there was a devastating flood that did a lot of damage here. Then in the mid 80s, there was a
Fire next door, and the theater suffered very heavy smoke damage. Not a lot of physical damage, but it was bad enough that the theater had to close because it was inoperable. So there was almost a 5-year period that the theater was shuttered.
If you're my age and from Lexington, it was terrible because there was a lot less to do in Lexington in those days. This is pre-internet. You certainly had some video stores, but they might have had a shelf about this big with unusual film. So it's pretty devastating for a lot of people in Lexington. But after about 5 or 6 years, they reopened. And then, of course, because of COVID, we closed again for another 2 years.
2020, and after about a year and a half, the Urban County government, as I said before, they own the building. So when they thought things had gotten better and things were beginning to open back up again, they wanted to see the theater reopen.
We've gone from being purely a first-run theater, in the 1920s. We're old enough that we would have shown silent films here.
The goal was to make it an art house theater. Of course, I think we've always, to an extent, for a number of years, have been sort of art house theaters. There's would probably be lots of films that would never come to Lexington if it wasn't for the Kentucky Theater.
Probably up through the 50s even, just doing relatively first-run commercial films, the sort of thing that if nowadays you went out to a multiplex, you would see. So the Kentucky began to look at different niches, and we've had different niches over the years. There was a time when they just did cult films all the time, midnight movies all the time.
Foreign films, we do every summer, starting late May, we do a summer classic series that runs from the last Wednesday of May through Labor Day Wednesday.
Again, if you're a little bit older and a long-time Lexingtonian, you'll remember a calendar that we published for years and years and years, and it was a 6-week calendar of every film we were going to show. And all over Lexington, people had this calendar on their refrigerator. But it was what you would call a calendar house. They weren't really doing first-run films very much. They were doing repertory. They were doing older films and cult films, and so you could program that out.
We also do special events from time to time. We just had C. Thomas Howell here that was in the film The Outsiders. And if you remember that film, it's very popular. It's still, middle school students still read the book. And so he was in town for a Comic-Con event that was down at Rupp Arena. And so he asked if he could do something special here and could the movie be shown at the theater, and we obliged, and so we had a full house over in the smaller auditorium.
It could be as simple as just there's a Q&A. Ethan Hawke has just done a film, and he's in there. He shot it in Louisville. It's about Flannery O'Connor, and they're doing a pre-theatrical release screening here at the Kentucky. And he's coming here to do a Q&A. That's unique. That's something that Kentucky offers. And then we just do crazy things. When we had Barbie here, we had a Barbie fashion show in the lobby. We had Cocaine Bear, a kind of goofy film. We did it here, but the real, quote unquote, the real stuffed Cocaine Bear was in our lobby. So we like to make events fun, social, more than just seeing a film.
What kind of struggles have you guys faced since becoming like a nonprofit with having so many commercial movie theaters around you guys?
Well, I think that a lot of people, when you say nonprofit, they think that means that you get to keep all the money that you might make. Well, that's not true. There's advantages that you have as being a nonprofit, but at the same time, you still have to make arrangements and deals, contractual arrangements with film companies. You have to pay for those films, just like all the other theaters do.
So there are 300 or 400 art house theaters, loosely defined, in the United States, and virtually all of them are nonprofits. And I think a lot of us face a lot of the same challenges. It's going to be different given the size of the town, but anywhere you go, there's only going to be a certain percentage of the population that just really, really loves film, that are just real cinephiles. And so a smaller town, there's fewer of those. And so, we have to compete for audience. Netflix streaming services have really created challenges for theaters to overcome. And I think that's, in many ways, the bigger challenge than other commercial cinemas in Lexington, because we don't overlap that much of what we show. I mean, sometimes we show the same things, but there's not that much overlap.
We do have, very fortunate to have a number of people that volunteer from time to time, and we're very fortunate that we have a landlord, which happens to be the Lexington Fayette Urban County government. We're not subsidized by those folks, but they take care of it. If the roof happens to have a leak or air conditioning breaks down, we hope that they'll take care of that, and they have. But the challenge is out there, what do you show?
But we know that you can sit at home in the comfort of your pajamas on your sofa, and nowadays there's probably nothing you can't find to watch. So what do we do to get you to come down here? And there are a lot of things that we do. I mean, one is, and I know from personal experience, you might have Netflix, you might have Mubi, you might have I don't think the Criterion Channel exists, or maybe it's now Mubi. But it's overwhelming. I mean, you can spend a night trying to find something. And so in many ways, we're your film curator. I mean, we keep up with film like no one else does. And I think as a staff, a whole staff together, few people know as much about film as our staff put together.
Show films that we feel that are quality films, and films that expose our audience and our patrons to films that would never come to Lexington. So we have to take a look at it and try to make good choices. I would say that's been the most important thing that we faced.
The other thing is that there's a social experience to seeing film that you cannot get at home. And we see it all the time. We see it, I experience this. You'll watch a film, maybe it's a film I've seen, I haven't seen it in a long time. It's a comedy, and I might watch it on television, I might chuckle. And then you come down here and there's just something infectious. You're with, 100, 200, 300 other people, and they're laughing, and you just can't help but get involved in that. It's the same with scary films and horror films. There's that social experience. The other thing is that we're a unique place in Lexington. We've been around forever. We're a Lexington institution. Fred Mills, you're going to talk to Fred. He's been here 55 years. Everybody knows him. They love him. It's just a warm, welcoming place for everybody, and we feel like we're Lexington's living room, and I think a lot of people in Lexington feel that way.
Do you remember the first film you saw here?
I actually don't. My oldest childhood friend we lived in the same neighborhood, and his father was involved in management there were several downtown theaters, large theaters similar to this one. This one always, for me, was the most elegant theater. But since his father was in management, I came down probably at 8, 9, 10 years old to see movies. I saw love all those old Disney films, Snow White, and Pinocchio, and all that stuff.
I don't, but what I do remember is that when I was in school and taking a film studies class, which this would never happen now, I was lucky enough to see virtually every single film that we would talk about in a film studies class, like the really just significant films, the canon of film history, all down here at the Kentucky Theater on 35 millimeter print, something that just doesn't happen.
I went to, maybe this theater was more showing adult films, and I mean, not the Disney films, kiddie films, but they were a little bit more serious films they showed here. But but I think that's where my first love for the theaters, came from coming as a child and seeing this theater.
And I just have a lot of great memories. I mean, Lisa and I as friends, we've been coming here for decades. For decades, it's pretty much my weekend plans revolved around what's showing down at the Kentucky Theater.
Not everybody gets to come to work and work in a building like this every day. I've been working here since I was 17 years old. I tell everybody I didn't know it was going to happen in a sense. I was finished at Eastern Kentucky University and had planned to teach school. At the time I finished in 1970, the history teachers were sort of a dime a dozen, and I had a real broad social science area. My parents were elderly, so they really didn't want me to leave Lexington. So fortunately, I'd already been working here during high school and on weekends and summers, and so luckily there was an opening in management and I was offered the job, and so I guess you might say that the rest is history. I like to say that I have the best job in Lexington, and for me it's and continues to be a wonderful life.